the 26th, 2026. Attendance has been taken, noticing that Councillor Kyle is virtual and Councillor Chambers is on his way, but he's going to be coming in a little bit late. Number 2 on the agenda is the land acknowledgement, and Councillor Pierce, you're going to do that for us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we gather, we acknowledge that we meet on the lands and territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations, Six Nations on the Grand River, and the traditional territory of the Attawandaronk. We remind ourselves that the County of Brant is situated on lands that are full of rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people today. We recognize we recognize the significance of their contributions to the past, present, and future of this land. As a county, we have a shared responsibility for stewardship of the land on which we live, work, and commit to the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action. We commit to continuing learning, reflecting on our past, and working in allyship.
Thanks, Councillor Pierce. The next thing on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Does anyone have anything to add to the agenda before we get started? And I'll also take your attention to number 13 and number 14 on the agenda, which is 2 different categories. We have other business, which is what we'll declare now, if there is any, and then 14 now is the councillor's update, and we don't need to know what that's going to be. When we get to number 14, just let me know what you want to talk about. So nothing else for the agenda? Looking for Councillor Haley? You want to?
I move that the County of Brant Council agenda of May 26, 2026 be approved.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Kyle. All those in favor of the agenda the way it stands? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Declaration of pecuniary interest. Is there any that are obvious? If one comes up, please let me be the first to know. Delegations. We've had a withdrawal of the delegation 5.1, the Legion. They're going to come another time, which brings us to number 5.2, which is the Carvers. If you'd like to come up to the podium, please, and state, yeah, and just give us your name, please, and your address, and you've got 10 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Tiffany Carver, and this is my father, Alan Carver, and my brother, Jason Carver. Good evening, Mayor Bailey, members of council, and county staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I want to begin with something personal, because for my family, this has never been just a planning file. It's been part of our lives, both our past and our future. Our dream was simple. My parents were aging, and we wanted them to be able to age in place, surrounded by family. My husband and I hoped to build a bungalow on the property with an in-law suite for my parents to move into and enjoy single-story living for the last years of their life. My brother and his family would be next door in the main house, 3 generations together on the land my parents bought and cared for since 1965. We began this process with the hope that both my parents would be able to see that home built. But as the timelines continued to stretch, we weren't able to complete the severance in time. My mom passed away before we could finish it. Losing that time with her is something I will carry for the rest of my life. My family's lived at 199 Jerseyville Road for more than 60 years. For over 40 years, my father served as a volunteer firefighter and fire chief. My mom served on county council. We're not developers. We're not speculators. We're simply a family trying to live on our land in a viable way. We believe that if we followed the county's process and did everything asked of us, the system would work. But the process we encountered was not predictable, and it was very different than the requirements applied to the 9 severed lots across the road or the 3 adjacent to us. And it was not something an ordinary resident could reasonably navigate. I'm here representing our family because the severance process has become unmanageable, inconsistent, continually shifting, and emotionally and financially draining. And because the hydrogeological review, which should have been a technical exercise, has expanded far beyond what county staff originally required. I'm here to share our experience with the process so council has a full picture of how the current system is functioning for longtime residents. Here's a timeline of our process. In 2023, we received conflicting information about whether a severance was even permitted. We sought outside counsel to guide us. In 2024, we completed pre-consultation, but key requirements were not identified at that stage. It was 6 months from submission to comments. We finally submitted our application in September. In 2025, the application was first deemed incomplete. Then another 6 months later, accepted under the official plan 2012. We completed all required technical work and revisions for archaeology and hydro-G according to the county's terms of reference. In 2026, the peer review introduced new requirements that had not been part of the original scope. This sequence shows how the process evolved in ways that were difficult to anticipate or plan for. Before we even reached the hydrogeological stage, we faced conflicting information about eligibility, a pre-con that missed major requirements, planner changes, delays caused by internal communication gaps, requirements imposed on us that neighboring properties were not required to meet, and perhaps the most difficult part, our file sat dormant for weeks or months at a time with our questions unanswered. Those gaps added significantly to the uncertainty and made it harder to manage the process. When the county re-engaged with our file, we were told with certainty that we needed a hydrogeological study. It's important to remember that the purpose of a hydro-G study in a severance is to confirm adequate servicing, specifically that the new lots will have a reliable water supply and appropriate sewage capacity. Our property has over 60 years of reliable water use, including a shallow dug well that supports 6 full-time occupants, a neighboring greenhouse that depended on consistent water supply, and all the severed lots across the road that have had no supply issues. These real long-term data points demonstrate the reliability of the aquifers serving our area. It's frozen. Okay, there we go. One more. Sorry, just 1 second.
Get Mr. Garver to sit down.
Do you need to sit?
Thank you.
Yeah.
You good? You good?
It seems to be frozen.
As long as you're good.
In June 2025, the county provided the written terms of reference that outlined exactly what was required beyond a desktop hydro-G study. It was a clear, finite, and manageable scope, 1 new drilled well, 1 6-hour D55 pump test, monitoring of the existing well, and a D54 nitrate assessment for the severed lots. We hired a highly recommended hydrogeologist and got to work. Following our report submission and first round peer review, we reviewed the comments with the consultants and the planning department to ensure all required issues were addressed in our revision. There's an error on this slide. It should say what Cambium is now requiring. When the second peer review came back in 2026, the scope had changed significantly. The reviewer introduced several new requirements that were not part of the county's terms of reference, including a second pumping test, the possibility of drilling yet another well, expanded nitrate calculations, and additional technical analyses. For an ordinary family trying to navigate this process, these kinds of unexpected additions are overwhelming. Oh, it's really having a hard time right here. I'll just keep going. You can follow along with the slides. The slide that I'm on now shows the difference clearly. The county's terms of reference outlined a focused, finite scope, and we completed all of it. The peer review now reflects a much broader set of expectations. The concern is not the technical work itself, it's the shifting requirements that make it difficult to plan, to budget, and to understand what the actual endpoint is. My Hydro-G consultant has actually stepped away because the expectations keep shifting. This process has had a significant emotional and financial impact on my family. It's been stressful to navigate, especially watching my parents age in real time, while trying to manage a file that has stretched on for nearly 3 years. We've invested over $100,000 in this application, followed every direction, completed every study, and responded to every request. In the most recent email I received from the county's planning department, I was told that at this stage, I essentially have 3 options. First, find a new hydrogeologist to take over the file and complete the additional work that was not part of the original scope. Second, withdraw the application. Or third, ask staff to move the application forward as is, knowing they would not be able to support it. Seeing withdraw the application listed as an option after nearly 3 years of effort was deeply discouraging. It felt like the magnitude of what we've put into this process was not being acknowledged. And despite doing everything asked of us, we still don't have a clear endpoint. Other consultants have told me they are seeing the same pattern. County-approved scopes being rejected, requirements expanding mid-process, unpredictable and costly demands. This suggests a systemic issue, not a site-specific one. I also want to acknowledge that this has been a complex process with many moving parts. At times, it was difficult to tell whether delays were due to evolving requirements or challenges on our consultant's end. What this highlighted is that the process doesn't give residents a clear, coordinated path, making it hard to understand where the bottlenecks are. And unlike developers who have staff dedicated to monitoring files, I was managing this without subject matter expertise while working full-time. If this continues, more families will face the same uncertainty and cost, and that's why it's important to address the process itself. I'm respectfully asking Council to review the severance and hydrogeological peer review process. The work we have completed, the 2 studies, 2 peer reviews, multiple revisions, and a new well with a full D55 pump test meet the requirements that were originally set out for us. From our perspective, the information provided is sufficient to demonstrate adequate servicing to the proposed lots. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for a process that is aligned with the county's own terms of reference and the precedents set by the neighboring properties. I'm willing to complete any remaining requirements that are clearly defined and consistent. I'm seeking a path to bring this file to fair and finite conclusion. I also believe there is an opportunity to look at the broader system. Right now, applicants are required to pay for peer review because the county does not have in-house hydrogeological expertise. This means residents carry the full financial burden of both preparing the study and paying for the county's review of it. If the county must rely so heavily on a single peer reviewer, it may be worth considering whether applicants should simply be directed to use that consultant from the outset. It would avoid duplication, reduce cost, and create a more predictable and transparent process for everyone. My family has been a part of this community for nearly 60 years. We've served it, supported it, and believed in it. If there's one thing I hope you take away from this delegation, it's that clarity, consistency, and predictability matter. These processes have real impacts on real families, and improving them will benefit the entire community. Thank you for your time, and we welcome any questions.
Thank you for coming tonight. I need to get on the floor before we can talk about it. Councillor Oakley, Councillor Pierce, questions for the delegation? Councillor Miller, you're first.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to Tiffany, a few questions, Tiffany. First question, are you working with a planner?
We are working with a planner, we're working with Cahoon,
And you've been working with them since the beginning?
yeah, with Bob Phillips. Bob's on the call tonight.
All right, because that's it, and you're still having some issues. Okay. Water in the area, is it a problem in the Jerseyville Road area, groundwater?
Not that we understand it to be, not that we know about our immediate neighbors, not that the last 60 years have shown us.
Okay. And I'm going to ask, this might be for a staff question, but why is Cambium involved? They look after our source water protection. You guys aren't in a wellhead protection area for a municipal well or anything out that way?
That I am not aware of. What I understand from Cambian's involvement is the county procured them as the peer reviewer of hydrogeological studies.
All right, that explains that. Okay, and then the last question, why was the second hydro-G study needed? Did the first one, was it questionable? Did it fail? Do you know why?
There were questions about the results of the first Hydro-G. So during that, they were captured during the peer review. We reconvened after that peer review with both consultants, Hydro-G, HCS Consulting, which is our Hydro-G provider, and Cambium, and city planning, or county planning. And we went through each of the issues, addressed which of them were nice to haves, administrative things, which of them were must-dos. One issue in particular had to do with the nitrate readings of our water. So we had to rerun a pumping test. And that was done to make sure that the equipment was clean and the water sample that we were getting was accurate. So we reran a pumping test to ensure that that reading was correct, and amongst a couple other things. And we resubmitted our report. What I didn't expect to have happen is that that report would go back for a second peer review, which we are now been charged with, and it come back with different things.
Okay. Thank you, Tiffany. And I'll say to the mayor, I think when you're moving, we have a motion to receive it, but I think Councilor Coleman might have an amendment to that. When he presents that, I'll second it, and I'd like to speak to that amendment.
Councillor Coleman?
If there's no more questions, Mr. Mayor, I would move that staff come back with a report to the July planning meeting. I know we can't do it for the June meeting, but for the July meeting, and to get some of these questions answered for us around the table. Seeking a seconder.
Councillor Miller's going to second it. You want to speak to it?
Yeah. I think, and I'm glad that motion's being made, because I think there's enough in there, and I think Tiffany did a great job of presenting it to see what is going on. We know there's three sides to every story, so it'd be nice to find out from staff what's going on. So there's that issue, the immediate issue, but I think, speaking to the presentation, I think there might be, there was talk about systemic problems, and it might be good to look at our whole process in the meantime. So I think there's two avenues we should be investigating.
Okay. Any other question, Councillor Oakley?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, just a question to staff, just sort of on the timelines of this. With the timeline presented here, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, during this time frame, we had a lot of internal turnover and staffing changes in the department. Is this fair to say?
Through Councillor Oakley to council. So that would be accurate. However, I would say that despite the fact that it went through a few different planners, the approach has remained consistent, so that hasn't impacted the timelines for this particular application in any way, I would say. Definitely an outlier application in terms of timelines, and in terms of outstanding issues and conditions waiting to be cleared, for sure.
And then one follow-up question to staff. Would part of the premise of what we're doing with the whole community planet permit system is meant to sort of simplify a lot of this? Would this be something that perhaps, if we're looking at that lens, we perhaps be looking at a simpler, easier to sort of follow process for the layperson?
Through Councillor Oakley, or sorry, to the chair, to council. The planning process, as it is currently in Ontario, is complicated. I would agree with what, the delegation has indicated, that it's very hard for lay people to navigate the process. And I would say it's probably next to impossible for people to navigate without consultants. This process, it would change under the CPPS in a few different ways. So what would happen is they would come in for an initial consultation. All the conditions would be laid out in the reports which are needed. And then once a permit is issued, it would almost be treated the same way as draft plan conditions are treated now. So a permit would be issued, but the conditions would still need to be cleared. In terms of what is happening right now, the hydrogeological condition would still need to be cleared. So that box would still be one which needs to be checked. I would defer to Dave with respect to any questions surrounding the hydrogeological, but that requirement would still be there regardless of the process.
Thank you.
Councillor Bell, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the delegation. It's obviously been going on a long time. Did you try to reach out to your ward councillor? I'm interested in the process we might follow for similar issues going forward, but I would assume you would have reached out to your ward councillor. And what happened when you did?
Sure. So did I reach out to ward councillors? I did at some points. I reached out to Brian when I ran into a bit of a snag. By nature, I was not going to push things because I didn't truly understand the full process. So as I was watching the process happen, I reached out to councillor only when I had an issue that I really did not understand why it was happening. The rest of the time, our consultant from Cahoon was dealing directly with the county. So, no, if I could rewind, I would reach out much sooner, and I would have reached out at the very beginning to have a full understanding of what we were getting ourselves into. Because when we originally looked at this project, when my mom and I had our dream, we laid out what the process was going to be, and everything that we were getting was indicating that process was right. When we got our pre-consultation, it was exactly as we expected it was going to be, according to Cahoon. And then it wasn't until that file became real again, when the application went in, that a hydro-G, it was missing, and we didn't even know it was necessary. And same with the archaeological study. And I would echo the question that you asked, Councillor Oakley, about the planning changes. We had 3 or 4 planners in the 3 years that we've been working on this project. And all staff have been lovely. They have tried, and but what I have found is that when there was a change between planners, there were gaps. So we had 2 approximate 6-month gaps in our process. One was from pre-consultation until comments were received. Pre-consultation submission to comments was approximately 6 months. The next was after the application was received, deemed incomplete, then it was basically silence until March of the following year, when Pierre, our new planner, came in and called and said, this file hasn't been touched in a long time, and we'd like to get it moving again. And we were still waiting on questions as to whether or not the hydro-G and archaeology studies were needed to be as deep as we were told, because we had asked that question shortly after the application went in. And like I said, it was complicated. I wasn't doing everything myself. I have a consultant that was working with me, and there was lots of changes happening at the county. But I do think that there was the changing staff, there was contribution to the delays because of that.
Just to close out on that one, I think, maybe as a general comment to anybody listening, that ward councillors are here. They can be approached, they can be helpful. my experience is when people ask me, I try to help. Sometimes I don't give them the answer they want, and you know, that's because the answer you want may not be there. I don't know whether it is in this case, but I would just encourage you in the future and to anybody else listening to do that. So actually, it relates to a second question, which is to staff. When staff come back with their report, could they bring forward a list of applicants who have been long in the process, so we don't get a repeat of this?
Councillor Haley.
Yes, I support Councillor Coleman's motion, but I wanted to ask, I don't know how long, I know you've spent a lot of money, and it's been a long process, but I don't know how much longer it would take. Maybe I'm asking you, maybe I'm asking through you to Alicia, how much longer the second Hydro G would take, and whether or not that might come through before the July meeting. I'm just wondering about that. If it came through, then my question is, if it's satisfactory, then is it approved? And would that be before the July meeting, possibly? Then the July meeting could be also to meet about questions that Councillor Bell's raising and about systemic issues, but is there a possibility that in fact they might get approval before July?
Alicia?
Through your worship to Councillor Haley's question, should an amended or the updated hydrogeological come in and it be received, reviewed, and staff are competent that the box has been checked, then the application would come forward at the next planning meeting. I don't know if there would be time, just because of the notice requirements under the Planning Act, for that to happen before the July meeting, as that happens at the beginning of the month. But it would come to the next Planning Council.
Are there any other questions? I'm glad that you came and told us your story. We don't know these stories until we hear them. I think staff has got the message that we need to get this done as soon as we can. Sorry about the timing. I mean, your mother was a dear lady and a good friend of mine. And I'm sure that you're disappointed. There are timelines that we can do things about, and there's timelines we can't do anything about. But we do understand the urgency, and staff will get back to us as soon as we can. We have a motion on the floor. I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor to support Councillor Coleman? Opposed? Carried. Thank you for coming. We just heard that Councillor Chambers isn't going to be here tonight. Number 6 on the agenda is the adoption of the minutes from the previous meeting. Councillor Haley, you have those?
That the County of Brant Council minutes of April 28th, 2026, and the County of Brant Special Council minutes of May 19th, 2026 be approved.
Are there any questions to the minutes of the meeting of April the 28th? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor of receiving the minutes? Opposed? Carried. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, we'll move on to consent items. We have one consent item, and that's the Grand Erie Public Health letter of permission. I need a mover to get it on the floor. Councillor Bell. And seconder, please. Councillor Howes, thank you. Councillor Bell, do you want to speak to it for any reason, just because of what it is? Councillor Bell? No? Okay.
I don't. It's a good practice. We've done it year on year. I think last year we did actually find a case of West Nile virus, so it is important that we keep on doing it.
Okay, thank you. With that being said, is there any other questions? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. Consent items to be received, we have 10 of them. Can I get a mover to get them on the floor, please? Councillor Howes, Councillor Oakley. Does anyone want any of the 10 separated for discussion? Councillor Miller.
The first one, please, OPP Detachment Board meeting minutes.
Yeah. Anybody else? Councillor Oakley?
Through Mr. Mayor, 8.2.8.
8.2.8. Anybody else want anything else separated for discussion? Seeing none, let's vote on 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 10. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. Let's talk about number 1. Councillor Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to you or to maybe Councillor Pierce. In those minutes, there was a note saying how we're using more officers' time tied up in the emergency room, and they were comparing the numbers, I forget which month, whether it was April or March, from 2025 to 2026, and that went up by 133% to 28 hours. Not quite what ambulances are spending in the emergency room, but still, when something goes up more than double in a year, it's kind of, maybe I'm wondering, is it something that the board is aware of? Is it something the board is concerned about? If they are concerned, are there any actions being taken to maybe try and get that trend reversed?
Yep, Councillor Pierce, want to speak to that?
Sure. Actually, we had a meeting this morning, and the stats are actually down a little bit again. So it is something absolutely that they're aware of. There's no offload. For the paramedics, there's the offload nurse, as we know. There's nothing like that for police services across the board that either OPP or Brantford Police or anything like that have. They are working with staff there to see if they can get them through quicker, but the problem is most of them are potential mental health issues that have to be handed off in certain form. So yes, it's definitely something that we've spoken about. We are aware of it, but at this point in time, it is trickling down. But unfortunately, I don't want to say it's the nature of the beast, but it seems to be consistent across the province with the delays.
Okay, I'll just, thank you for the answer. I think it's something, we can't let it get out of control, so.
100%.
Yeah. Let's at least keep an eye on it. I'm glad it's being tracked at least, so, thank you.
Oh, it's being tracked. Councillor Pierce?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I could, just bear with me 2 seconds here, and I can give you the times from this morning's meeting, Councilor Miller.
Yeah, the timing of your
Yeah,
question,
so-
Councillor Miller, is really good.
Yeah, so in this morning's local, it was the time spent in emergency room with apprehensions was 11 hours, 40 minutes for 2 officers. It was 10 hours, so that part of it is up an hour. But the mean time spent with apprehensions was 1 hour and 27, which is down from 1 hour and 45. And then the time in emergency room ranged from 13 minutes to 3 hours and 36 minutes, which is down again from the same time frame last year. So it is definitely something that's every meeting we have, there's an update on that, and it is something that we are keeping an eye on.
Okay, good. Thanks, Councillor Pierce. Who had that? Councillor Oakley, you want to talk about number 8?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to pull this, it's a motion from Stone Mills in regards to the recent changes to Ontario's Freedom of Information and Privacy Act, where changes were made to exclude records from the Premier, Cabinet Ministers, and their staff from public access requests. I think fundamentally as part of our democracy, that access to information publicly is important for people to understand decision-making and ensure accountability throughout processes. And I think it's something that's particularly relevant right now, given some of the things going on locally. So I would be requesting that we move an identical motion to what is proposed here, with the exception of being striking the 3rd clause where it says all MPPs in Ontario's municipalities, changing that to simply MPP Will Bauma, Brian Riddell, and Ernie Hardman. Seeking a seconder.
Councillor Bell? Is everyone familiar enough with this to vote on this now? I see heads going up and heads going. Everyone's comfortable with voting on Councillor Oakley?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if folks are more comfortable, I'd be happy to just treat this as a notice of motion instead for next month's meeting, if that's
I think
a
that's
happier solution.
I would prefer that if you don't mind. Yeah, so we'll move that for a notice motion. Councillor Miller?
Just, I see what the motion is that the other township passed. A little bit of background, that's all. I don't doubt the veracity of your statements, but a little background would be good for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Oakley. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go back and we're going to vote to receive number 1 and number 8. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Takes us to number 9. 9.1 is the committee report, Policy Development Committee. Councillor Coleman, you have that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Oakley, that the Policy Development Committee report and minutes of May 5th, 2026 be approved, noting that there are 7 recommendations.
Questions for Councillor Coleman? No. Call the vote to receive the report. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 9.2, which is the Bucket Center Advisory Committee report. Councillor McAlpine, you have that?
Yep. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Pierce that the Bucket Center Advisory Committee report and minutes of May 12th, 2026 be approved, noting that there are 2 recommendations.
Are there any questions for Councillor McAlpine on his report? Seeing none, we'll call the vote to receive his report. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. Thank you. 9.3, which is the Administration and Operations Committee report, and that's Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Howes, that the Administration and Operations Committee report minutes from May 19th, 2026 be approved, noting that there are 13 recommendations.
So great big report there, Councillor Pierce. Any questions for Councillor Pierce? Councillor Haley? Turn your microphone, please.
Yes, I believe, through you, I believe that 9.2 was sent back to Heritage to reword. I believe the issue was, just a moment, 9.2, here we are. Do I have the right number? Sorry. 12. Was it 12? Sorry.
9.12.
It's recommendation 12.
Yeah, there was something about the, sorry, I can't find it right now. It was about that, it was in accordance with the, with agricultural land. Do you remember that? I can't find it right now, sorry, I did see it. I will step back if I can't find it, I apologize.
Okay, not a problem. Any other questions for Councillor Miller?
Just a comment, it doesn't pertain to any of the recommendations before us, but it does pertain to the policy, the admin and op meeting, and that was a report from Heather regarding the community grant program results. So I was happy to see that the grants seem to be spread out a little more among county groups. I will say, Mr. Mayor, that was a great idea on your part, maybe brilliant, for us to meet with that group. They were very lovely people, but we really, they got what we were saying, and it was interesting, the dialogue we had, but based on the results, yeah, I'm happy. Not happy that the grants are half of what they normally be, but there's always something to work on, but very glad to see a much different results this year versus last year.
No, I'm glad we had the meeting too. It was a good meeting. Councillor Haley, did you find what you were looking for? No? Okay. Anything else on Councillor Pierce's report that anyone wants to talk about? Call the vote to receive. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. 9.4 is the Paramedic Services Committee report. That's Councillor Miller.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, moved by myself, second by Councillor Pierce, that the Paramedic Services Committee report and minutes of May 20th, 2026 be approved, noting that there are 3 recommendations.
Does council have any questions for Councillor Miller on his report? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor to receive it? Opposed and carried. Staff reports, there aren't any. Communications, Township of Wasaga Beach, Bill 100, Better Regional Governments Act. Can I get it on the floor, please? Councillor Pierce and Councillor Coleman. Any questions on 11.1? All those in favor to receive it? That's great. Takes us to number 12.1, which is a proclamation request for Prostate Cancer Foundation of Canada. Can I get it on the floor, please? Councillor Bell and Councillor Coleman, thank you. Anyone have any objection to this? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. Okay, this is the part where we have other business. Does anyone have any other business before we go to councillor updates? None were sort of mentioned, so we'll go right on then to number 14, which is councillor updates. Does councillors have anything they want to talk about from their ward that you want council and the people listening to know? How did your yard sale go, Ella?
That was the Langford Church, not the Langford Schoolhouse, and they got rained out on the Saturday. They really got heavy rain, but Friday was good.
Okay, good. I saw your signs. Anybody else have anything to say? Seeing none. Takes us to number 15, which is in camera, and Councillor Haley, you're going to take us in camera.
That the County of Brant Council convene in camera to discuss the new Central Library project, new site selection request, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land, the Lozani Homes NIF subdivision, the OLT appeal regarding engineering admin fee, its litigation or potential litigation, and we're looking at advice that's subject to solicitor-client privilege. The third item is options analysis for the future of the Bobcat Center, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition, and about a plan, position, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations. The fourth is Policy Development Committee in-camera report about the security of the property of the municipality or local board. The fifth is Bobcat Center Advisory Committee in-camera report about a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land. The sixth is Administration and Operations Committee in-camera report about personnel matters about an identifiable individual. And the next one is County of Brant Special Council Meeting in-camera minutes about a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations. And finally, the Paramedic Services Committee in-camera report of May 29th, 2026 about labor relations or employee negotiations.
It's a lot. Thank you, Councillor Haley. All those in favor to move in camera? Okay, and we're going to just take a couple of minutes and we'll be back. Okay, we're back at open session. The only thing left to do is number 16, which is the bylaws, and Councillor Bell has the bylaws.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Pearce in Councillor Chambers' absence, that bylaws number 64-26 to 69-26 be read a first time.
Let's put a second councillor's name in there instead of Chambers. Who?
I did, Pearce.
Oh, you did? Sorry,
Yeah.
okay. All those in favor of the first reading? If you could do it again, Councillor Bell.
Yep. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Pearce, that bylaws number 64-26 to 69-26 be read a second time and all preambles and clauses be adopted.
Are there any questions to the second reading of the bylaws? All those in favor of the second reading of the bylaws? Do it one more time, please, Councillor Bell.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Pearce, that bylaws number 64-26 to 69-26 be read a third time, passed, signed and executed.
All those in favor of the third reading of the bylaws? Opposed? No one. Takes us to number 17, which is the next meeting. We'll meet on June the 23rd at 6 o'clock here in County Council Chambers. Is there anything else for the betterment of the County of Brant?